All right, I want you to picture, just for a second, the absolute perfect winter afternoon.
Okay.
You know the kind I'm talking about. The windows are a little frosted over in the corners. The light is doing that sharp golden thing it does in January.
Right, that low winter sun.
Exactly. And
Wow.
outside, you've got that specific, satisfying crunch, crunch, crunch sound of boots on packed snow.
It creates a very specific headspace, doesn't it? A sort of suspended animation. It feels like the world's holding its breath.
It does. It really does. It sets the stage for, well, for magic, usually. Which brings us to today's deep dive.
And this one's a little different.
Okay, I have to be honest with you, and with you listening. When I saw the source material for this week, I did a double take.
I can imagine.
I mean, we are usually digging into these heavy sociology papers or, big tech trends. Today, we are looking at a story set in Maple Hollow.
I know. It looks like a pivot, a big one.
It looks like a bedtime story. The source material is called, and I'm not kidding, Harmonies of the Musical Mittens Band.
Yep, that's the one.
So are we? Are we pivoting to children's literature reviews now? Is that what's happening? Because if so, I think I might need to change my reading glasses.
Bear with me here. Yes. On the surface, this is a charming story about 4 kids, Mia, Max, Harper, and Toby, messing around with some enchanted winter gear.
Uh-huh.
But if you strip away the whimsy, what we actually have is a surprisingly dense case study on systems thinking.
Systems thinking from Mittens.
Absolutely. It's a perfect simulation of emergent behavior. It explores the difference between noise and signal, the mechanics of collaboration, and what happens when you introduce a disruptive technology into a totally unorganized group.
Okay, you've piqued my interest. Emergent behavior in a snowy gym. Let's roll with it. So set the scene for us. We're not in a boardroom.
No, not at all. We're in a school gymnasium, and that context is everything. A school gym is usually a high-entropy environment.
Oh, complete chaos. Screaming, echoing, balls flying everywhere.
Exactly. But the source makes a point of saying that on this particular afternoon, it's quiet. It's a blank slate.
Until they find the box. Now, anyone who has actually been to a school lost and found knows it is usually a pretty grim place.
Grim is a good word for it.
It's mostly single sneakers and, gym shorts that smell like cheese.
Right, it's a graveyard of unwanted items.
But not this one. The source describes a really colorful box sitting just outside the gym doors, and it has a UI instruction on it. It doesn't say take one.
No.
It says, please play me.
Which is such a critical distinction.
Yeah.
Lost and found implies the objects are passive. They're just waiting to be claimed.
Right.
Please play me implies the objects are active tools waiting for a user. It changes the whole mental model immediately.
And the inventory inside is wild. We're not talking about damp wool gloves.
Sure.
The source lists this treasure trove. Striped mittens, sparkly ones, fuzzy ones, rainbow ones, and my personal favorite detail.
The ones with the bells.
Mittens with tiny bells sewn right into the fingertips.
It's a high variance inventory. See, if every pair were identical gray wool, you'd have uniformity, but you wouldn't have specialization. The variety suggests that different users can have totally different inputs.
So the kids, Mia, Max, Harper, Toby, they just dive in. And this is where the individual experiments phase kicks in. I really want to break this down because the sound design described in the text is so specific.
It is. And it follows this clear pattern of discovery.
So take Toby. He grabs these bright blue mittens. He puts them on and does the most basic human thing you can do with your hands. He claps.
And ordinarily, a clap is just a flat, sharp, transient sound. Whoop. That's it.
But not here. The source says it made a boom-bitty-boom. It's this deep, resonant drum sound.
Think about the physics of that for a second. He's becoming the bass. He's the anchor. In any group dynamic, you need someone who provides the floor. The grounding frequency.
Yeah.
It just stumbles right into that role.
Okay, so then you have Harper. She goes for the sparkly pink pair. She snaps her fingers. Again, usually a quiet throwaway sound.
Almost nothing.
But the mittens translate it into ting-ting-ting.
High frequency. It's like a glockenspiel or a triangle or something.
Like twinkling bells.
Right, so now you have the low end with the drums and the extreme high end with the bells. These are contrasting frequencies. They aren't fighting each other for space in the mix.
Then Max steps up with the green mittens. He doesn't strike anything. He just whooshes his hands through the air, and he gets a It's this silly trumpet sound.
Which implies sustain. The other sounds were percussive. They were hits. Max is providing a line, a melody.
And finally, Mia with the fuzzy yellow mittens. She taps the wall, and instead of a thud, we get plink, black, plink, piano notes.
So we have the full spectrum:
Yeah.
percussion, texture, lead melody, and harmonic support.
Mm.
But here's the problem, and the text is very honest about this. Initially, it is a disaster.
Oh, it's awful. I mean, just imagine being in that room. You've got boom, bitty, boom, just colliding with ooh-wah and ting-ting. It's not music.
No.
It's just four kids making noise at the same time.
And this is what we call parallel play in child development, or divergent thinking in brainstorming. Everyone is broadcasting. No one is receiving. They're discovering their own capabilities. Look what I can do. But they aren't acknowledging the system they're a part of.
It's the ego phase. I have a trumpet. Listen to me.
Exactly. And in a corporate setting, this is that meeting where everyone talks over each other because they all want to get their point across. It's high energy, but zero alignment.
So how do they fix it? Because usually this is where a teacher blows a whistle and shuts the whole thing down. But the source says something strange happens. The mittens start to wiggle.
The feedback loop activates. The tools themselves signal that something is wrong, or rather that potential is being wasted. And these tiny snowflake lights float up. It's a visual cue.
And a voice, I guess the OS of the mittens, hums this directive. It says, every mitten has a rhythm. Together, you make a song.
That's the mission statement right there. Together, you make a song. It shifts the goal from make a cool noise to build a coherent structure.
So they form a circle, and I think that geometry is important, right?
It's crucial. You can't collaborate if you can't see the other nodes in the network. Facing inward means they are now monitoring each other, not just broadcasting out to the room.
And they start to layer it. The source describes this transition from chaos to order really beautifully. It starts with Toby. Boom, bitty, boom.
The heartbeat. He sets the tempo. If Toby speeds up, everyone speeds up. This is a real thing called entrainment, when independent rhythmic systems sync up to a dominant pulse.
So once that heartbeat is there, Harper comes in with the ding, ding, ding.
She's adding texture right on top.
Then Max brings in the woo-wah trumpet, and Mia adds the plink-plonk piano. And suddenly, it's not noise anymore, it's a song.
It's synergy. And I know that word gets abused in business seminars until it just loses all meaning.
Oh, totally.
But this is the literal definition. The output of the group is qualitatively different than the sum of the individual parts. A drum solo is fine. A bell solo is annoying. Together, it's a groove.
It's a jam session in a snowed-in gym. But here's where I think the story actually gets surprising. Because usually, when a group of kids, or adults, let's be real, finds a magic advantage or a secret cool thing, the instinct is to hoard it.
Eat keeping. This is our cool box. You can't play.
Right, go find your own magic mittens.
Huh.
But that's not what happens. A group of younger kids shows up at the door. The source says they look shy.
This is the stress test for the system. The group has achieved equilibrium. They have a cool song going. Introducing new variables, new people, is risky. It could break the rhythm. It could turn the music right back into noise.
But look at what Harper and Max do. Harper asks, do you want to listen?
Which is already a generous offer.
Max immediately follows up with, or join us.
Or join us. That right there is the pivot from a closed system to an open one.
And the younger kids accept. They go to the box. They put on these extra mittens. Now, I was expecting them to just double up. You know, more drums, more bells. But the source says the soundscape expanded. We got tambourine taps, flute whooshes, and giggly jingles.
Giggly jingles. I love that description because it implies the instrument adapted to the user. The younger kids brought a lighter, more playful texture to the mix.
And instead of ruining the song, the source says the gym just filled with music, dancing, and laughter.
This creates what's known as a dense soundscape. By adding new frequencies, the flute, the tambourine, they were filling in the gaps. They made the music richer, not just louder.
And get this detail, the source says, even the basketballs started bouncing in rhythm.
That is fantastic. I love that.
I mean, that's just cartoon physics, right?
Well, sure, it's magic.
Mm-hmm.
But metaphorically, that is what happens when a culture becomes dominant in a space. The environment itself seems to align with the energy of the group. When a team is really clicking, really in a state of flow, even the inanimate obstacles, the logistics, the schedule, the basketballs, they just seem to fall into place. The friction disappears.
It turns into a beautiful winter concert. That's what Mrs. Willow calls it when she walks in.
And that's the external validation. It proves they weren't just, hallucinating a good time. An outside observer recognized the order and the beauty.
But then, the battery runs out. Or the spell breaks. The final note rings out, the mittens glow one last time, and then nothing. They go still.
They're just wool and polyester again.
The temporary autonomous zone collapses. The tool breaks.
Yep.
Now, if this were a typical story about toys, you'd expect the kids to be devastated. The fun is over. The power is gone.
Total meltdown.
Right. But the source explicitly says the kids were still smiling.
And this is the aha moment. Why are they smiling?
The text says, because even without magic, they had discovered music, teamwork, and joy.
That's the key. The mittens were a placebo. Well, not quite placebo. They did make the funny sounds. But the music, the coordination, that didn't come from the wool. That came from the listening.
The software update happened in their heads, not in the gloves.
Exactly. The ability to listen to Toby's beat and synchronize your snap to it, that is a learned neurological skill. Once you learn how to collaborate, you don't unlearn it just because the fancy tool goes away.
So if we zoom out and look at this, not as a story about Maple Hollow, but as that case study you promised at the beginning, what are the big takeaways here?
I think there are three really distinct layers to this. The first is differentiation. The story makes a big deal about how different the mittens were. Striped, fuzzy, bells, no bells.
Right. If everyone had tried to be the drum, it would have just been a headache.
Precisely. The system worked because the inputs were different. In a team, you don't want 5 people who are all big-picture visionaries, the trumpets. You need a drummer who executes. You need a piano who handles the details. Differentiation actually reduces conflict because everyone has a clear lane.
That makes a lot of sense. What's the second layer?
Emergence through listening. The transition from noise to music didn't happen because a boss told them what to play. There was no conductor in the story.
That's true. Mrs. Willow didn't show up until the very end.
They self-organized. The order emerged from the bottom up because they followed that simple rule: listen to the rhythm. In systems theory, simple local rules can lead to incredibly complex global behavior. And listen to your neighbor is a simple rule that created a symphony.
And the third layer?
Scalability through inclusion.
The little kid.
The little kids. Most groups, when they find a winning formula, they calcify. They put up walls to protect the magic. But these kids intuitively understood that adding diversity, the flutes, the giggles, would make the system more robust, not weaker. They scaled the network without breaking it.
It's surprisingly profound for a snowy afternoon in a gym.
I told you. It's a manual for organizational behavior disguised as a winter tale.
It really makes you think about our own mittens.
How do you mean?
Well, we all rely on tools to collaborate, right?
Yeah.
We have our Slack channels, our project management software, our specific job titles. I'm the Senior Vice President of Trumpet Sounds.
Right. I only do woo-wah. That is my deliverable.
But the danger is thinking that the tool is the collaboration.
That is the trap. You think, if we just buy this new software, our team will finally get along. If we just move to this new office, we'll have synergy. But the story tells us the opposite. The mittens were just the interface. The collaboration was a behavior.
So if the power went out tomorrow, if the internet broke, if the magic just faded,
would you still be able to make music? Or would you just be standing there in a cold room holding a silent piece of wool?
that is the question, isn't it? Are you the musician or are you just wearing the gloves?
It's a scary question. But if you've been listening, really listening to the people around you, I think you'd be fine. You can clap your own hands. You can make your own rhythm.
You don't need the bells to make it ring.
Well, the bells help, but they aren't the source.
I think that is a perfect place to leave it. Whether you are the drum, the trumpet, or the giggly jingle, make sure you are listening to the rest of the band.
And maybe check the lost and found once in a while. You never know.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.
Stay curious.